Hey everybody, Kicking It Retro here today, and welcome back to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. But today, we're going to take a trip through space and time. These Pokemon came from their original red, blue, and yellow cartridges. How did they get here? How did we get them all the way to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet? It's not Virtual Console, it's not a trick, it's real. Let's jump into it and I'll tell you what you need. In order to take this wonderful trip through space and time, you're going to need a couple of things before we get started. You're going to need a Game Boy Pocket, or an Analog Pocket for one device, and your second device is going to have to be the Game Boy Advance. You'll also need a Game Boy Color link cable. The Game Boy Advance one won't work. The ones that have the dual port to switch between 1 and 2 should work just fine. And finally, you're going to need a way to run a custom Nintendo DS file. Normally we use flashcards like Ace Card, R4s, and the like to do this. Tackling this large of a project by myself would be rather daunting, so I called in some help from the one and only Angel of the Night 091 as I start the Game Boy recording on the left hand side and the Game Boy Advance recording on the right hand side. Before we get started with the whole tutorial, just know this will not work on emulators, as there is no way to emulate the connection of Game Boy Color link cable emulating between Game Boy Advance and Game Boy Color. With that, let's get started. In order to begin this process, on the right hand side I've got the Game Boy Color, and on the left hand side I've got the Game Boy Advance running a custom Nintendo DS file called PB Poké Transfer. On the right hand side I just have standard Pokemon Red booting up slowly for you guys. As you're going to see over here, it's Red version. Poké Transporter GB was made out of love and appreciation for the Pokemon franchise with no profits in mind. It'll always be free. Please support the official developers Nintendo and Game Freak. All Pokemon names, sprites, and music are owned by Nintendo, Creatures Incorporated, and Game Freak. This guy, I believe it's just one developer that has made this project. Now, if you saw the thumbnail, what you saw in the thumbnail is that your PC box goes directly into Generation 3. And that's exactly what I'm going to show you today on the Poké Transporter GB. On the right hand side, I'm setting up the transfer here for putting the Pokemon into the PC box. Man, that looks really good for being recorded on an iPhone. One of the biggest things and one of the biggest limitations that we have found in starting this is you cannot use the Game Boy player on the GameCube because it doesn't allow you to use the link function. Same thing with a Game Boy operator. If you don't know what either one of those things are, that's fine. So, on the left hand side, it's asking which game we're transferring from, which is Pokemon Red. What this actually does is simulate the Wi-Fi connection in Pokemon Red and Blue and Yellow, just like it would in a Game Boy Color link cable. What it's going to do is transfer your first box of Pokemon directly into Generation 3, directly into Emerald. But what it does is it injects it as a mystery gift event into a NPC in Emerald. But we'll get into it in a minute. So on the right hand side on Pokemon Red, we're actually connecting to the Game Boy. We want to click Please Apply Here. You want to talk to this lady right here, this wonderful lady, where these two doors are on Pokemon Red. If you've ever played with your friends on classic Game Boy Color and the link cable, this will be very familiar to you. So right here, you want to transfer the data. Please apply here. Before opening the link, we have to save the game. Please wait. Where would you like to go? It automatically selects the Trade Center for you, and it brings you into this room in Pokemon Red. Just a moment. Transferring data. Please wait. Now watch the right hand side, guys. You're going to love this. This screen is so cool. It is miraculous to me how this is doing this. And as you see, it says transferring, please wait. So great. Let's take a look at the Pokemon that will be transferred. Now, a couple of things. Pokemon with HS, special Pokemon, Mew, Celebi, things like that. Depending on where you're transferring from, you cannot get those transferred. You can, but you have to press a certain button, and basically it changes how they are. It kind of stabilizes them. So it's Squirtle, Pikachu, Dragonite, Charizard, and Mewtwo if you didn't see. Amazing, fantastic. Everything went perfectly. You may now turn off the other Game Boy Family system. Looks like there's at least one new Pokemon here that isn't in the Dream Deck. I'll give them something extra sweet as a reward for you. But by the way, the Dream Deck is basically your Pokemon bank or Pokemon home through this, if you will. It's basically you collecting all the different Pokemon through the different generations and transferring them into the transfer program. My younger sister developed a version of the storage system too, so Lynette is a good friend of ours. Thank you so much for your help. Whenever you want to transform more Pokemon, just let me know. See you around. So what it's saying now is we need to go on Pokemon Emerald onto Route 114. And when we start Emerald, I'm going to show you guys exactly what happens on Emerald. I'll show you where to go on the map. We'll boot into Emerald, and that's exactly what we're going to do now. We're going to keep Red up for just another moment, just for nostalgia purposes, but then we're going to swap the screen over and make it just Emerald, because now we want to focus on Emerald, because those Pokemon have actually come off of Red, and that's the last thing I want to show. If you go on the right side to Pokemon Red and go to the PC, even if you just go to the release box, you just go to Bill's PC and release Pokemon, and there are no Pokemon here. That means that it transferred them off that game pack. So, now we are back on Pokemon Emerald, and what we're going to do now is, right here in Falabor Town, we're going to open up the map to show you the Pokénav Hoenn map. And as you see, if you go direct to the left just very, very slightly, let's zoom out first. Now let's go to the left very slightly. That's Route 114, and that is where we need to be on Route 114. So what we're going to do from Falabor Town is take a left right here, and take a left, come down the bridge. This is going to be right before Meteor Falls, if you guys know where I'm talking about. Right here where the wild Swablu are. There's a couple of trainers right here. And I was like, hey, this is the house. Hey, Lynette's house. Let's go see Lynette. She's a younger sister of Professor Fennel. Hey, Corey, Professor Fennel told me you'd be coming by for these Pokemon. Corey's Pokemon were sent to the PC. Thanks for helping out Fennel. So now we're going to go back. On Generation 3, we're going to go back to the Pokemon Center here. We do have a Flygon with Fly. Crazy, right? We're going to go back to Falabor Town and check out our Pokemon that we got from our Pokemon Red. Now, as we're talking about this currently, he and I could not get Generation 2 working. So the newest version of the transfer tool for us did not work. It worked one time, and every other time it's crashed, and we've only been able to transfer from red, blue, and yellow. But it's still really cool. So here on the bottom here we have our Pokemon, Ponyta, Squirtle, Timid Nature Squirtle here. Got a rare candy. As you can see, moves have been taken off, which is kind of appreciated, because I don't know if you guys know this, but when you bring them into different games, their moves get removed. By the way, this is a regular Surfing Pikachu from Pokemon Yellow version back from the 90s that Corey actually got surf taught through the Pokemon Stadium trick. Alright, and then another Dragonite here. Dragon Rage, Blizzard, Hyper Beam, and Surf. So it does remove moves for you, which is good because that makes them where you can transfer them in. Now, one thing we did not notice, and we'll get into it when we get into the Pokemon home screen, is some of the markings on the Pokemon. However, there is some cool intricacy that is saved. Pay attention to those ID numbers, because I will talk about that later on. So now we are leaving Generation 3 and going to Generation 4. I told you guys we had a long journey, and I wasn't kidding. So now we go Generation 3 to Generation 4. Let's get into it. Alright, it is time to pop out the regular DS. We're now going to migrate to Pokemon Platinum. We're going to start up the Game Boy Advance. I believe the first time that we tried to migrate, we had trouble because Pokemon knew HM moves. So I believe we had to go back onto here, go to Lily Cove, and, of course, fix those moves so that we were able to transfer those Pokemon into the PAL Park. So right here, we are moving some Pokemon around, picking some Pokemon for the PAL Park, which are going to be Squirtle, Ponyta, Charizard, Mewtwo, and Dragonite. Oh, I don't think he even transferred Ponyta. I think that is a figment of my imagination. Guys, I had to ask him for help. He has all the recording devices, consoleizers, all of those type of things. So massive shouts to Corey, aka Angel of the Night 091, for helping me get this tutorial out there, for helping me talk about it with you guys, and really to take this nostalgic trip. And you know what's crazy, guys? We're not even halfway done. We're just now going to Generation 4 from Generation 3. And I think this is a really good refresher, too, for anybody that has never transferred Pokemon up. that's never gone through the process. Now you can go through the process all the way from your classic Gen 1 and 2 games. So right here we're going to click Migrate to Emerald, and we're going to migrate to the game pack. They cannot be returned to the game pack, and they're going to go into the PAL Park. So it is Pikachu, Squirtle, Charizard, and Mewtwo. I think it's at this point he realized he had to have 6. So yeah, that's when we picked the Ponyta. There we go. So the Ponyta didn't actually join us from Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow, but it did join us in Generation 3. So that makes sense now. Yes, you do have to have 6 Pokemon for the PAL Park. Now we're going to go actually through the PAL Park and catch our Pokemon through the PAL Park. This is going to be one of the longest tutorials and nostalgic journeys on this channel, but I think it's very fitting. There's been a lot of growth for me and Corey lately, and I cannot thank you guys enough. And because of that growth, I wanted to bring this to you guys. He saw this and he said, we have got to cover this. So, that's exactly what we're doing. We are in PAL Park here. Alana, this is it. This is PAL Park. Pokemon from the country can be brought here. In other words, Pokemon from places like Kanto and Hoenn. This place also happens to be where you compete to see how quickly you can catch these Pokemon. It's good to see you've come to join us for a visit. Let me make a gift of this trainer counter app on your Poketch. So I don't actually show the Poketch bottom screen. I just typically show the top screen currently, but he's going to be in Eterna City for some time. So we're going to make our time studying the Pokemon, or he's going to study the Pokemon in the Center region. We're going to go in PAL Park and catch our friends that we migrated over from Pokemon Emerald. What's really cool with this is also how you get the Park Balls. I forget how they transfer from Generation 4 up into like Scarlet and Violet, but it's originally how you got the Park Balls. And also, when you were thinking of Park Balls, Corey, you were thinking of Sport Balls as well. Both of them simultaneously can transfer up. So, we're just taking our time before we go into PAL Park. Welcome to PAL Park. This is where top-notch trainers come to demonstrate their Pokemon catching techniques of others. Oh, are you maybe Alana? We've heard all the rumors about you. Word is you're a hotshot trainer. We'd be honored if you'd participate in our catching shows. Yes, you agreed to participate. It's a happy day for me. Let's not waste any time. Let me explain how PAL Park works. I wrote a PAL Park manual for situations just like this. I believe we come down directly to understood. It's like we've done... Oh, never mind. PAL Park is where you are timed on catching 6 Pokemon. You're provided with 6 special Pokeballs for the challenge. Participating trainers are required to supply the 6 Pokemon that are to be caught. If you do not supply a stock of 6 Pokemon, you may not participate in the catching show. Do you want me to explain anything else? At the start of the catching show, you're giving 6 Park Balls. Use the Park Balls to catch the 6 Pokemon you provide. You don't want anything else. You may make Pokemon migrate from Kanto or Hoenn, insert a Game Boy Advance, Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald, FireRed, LeafGreen. When your DS is turned on, currently caught Pokemon can migrate. Okay, you want to take part in a catching show. Here's your Park Balls. So what's really cool about the Park Balls, buried with 2,000 points. Off you go, Alana. Dazzle us with a masterful display of Pokemon catching. The Park Balls are instant catches, which is so cool that it just automatically catches your Pokemon. And I think, too, they also put them in the different biomes they come from. Like how Ponyta is just running about here in the grass. But like I said, Ponyta technically didn't join us until Hoenn. So it didn't actually transfer all the way from Pokemon Red and Blue. I thought we transferred 6 all the way across, even though there was, 5 little Pokesprites on the transporter screen going to Pokemon Emerald. Alright, so we caught the Ponyta. So we've got 5 more Pokemon to catch, and then we get to migrate them again into Generation 5. Alright, so we come up here to the other grass. Who's this going to be? Ah, Pikachu! The Surfing Pikachu! Guys, I'm very, very curious how many of you actually completed the Surfing Pikachu Challenge on Classic Pokemon Stadium, where you actually brought Pikachu to Round 2 Prime Cup, and you actually used it in every single battle and got it taught surf originally before the Alolan games where you could get the Surfing Pikachu. Alright, the Pikachu was caught. Very nice. We're going to go around the grass again. I like how, like I said, I like how the biomes are special encounters. So we're like, I wonder if Dragonite and Squirtle are in the water. That would make a lot of sense. Hey, there's Squirtle! Wow, Norris's Squirtle is drawing close. And Norris is actually one of his original save files, so that's actually really, really cool. I think the question's going to come up at some point and go over it when we get to the Scarlet and Violet part, because I wanted you to pay attention specifically to the Mewtwo. Alright, we got two more to catch. We got the Mewtwo and the Dragonite left. So we're going to get back on the water and look for the Dragonite. Dragonite, not in that water patch. Mewtwo's not in the grass, that's weird. Ah. Unless it's quadrants of the Pal Park, in which the 6 are like there's 6 quadrants and 6 encounters. That would make a lot of sense too, to be honest. Oh, Dragonite. This is going to be Mewtwo. Oh, Charizard. I forgot about Charizard. How could I possibly forget about Charizard? It's like the headliner of Corey's original 80s, 90s team. Alright, so we got the Charizard. So now we've got the Dragonite and the Mewtwo left. And you also, I believe, have to have the National Dex. That might be for Poké Transporter Lab. But it also might be for Pal Park. This will be Mewtwo. It's crazy how... Oh, this is his original save file from the original Pokémon Red, the very first time he played. Well, maybe the second time. Ash or Red. We caught Mewtwo, and now we just have Dragonite left to catch. And where could Dragonite be? It's got to be in the water somewhere. Clearly, it's not going to be in the grass. If I was a big, fluffy dragon with little tiny wings, where would I hide? Probably in the water, because like as a Dragonair, I was like constantly swimming in the water. Oh, it's up here in the cave area. I guess that establishes the idea of the quadrants. Alright, so now we catch the Dragonite, and we have officially caught every single Pokemon that we sent into Pal Park. So, that being said, it is now time to transfer over into our next generation, being Generation 5. We went to Pal Park and we caught our friends, and now we bid farewell to Generation 4 as we now enter a world where we need 2 Nintendo DS systems to connect DS download play for the Poké Transfer Lab. I realize we didn't exactly show how to get to Route 15 that well in the tutorial, but you want to go to Route 15 on Pokemon White 2, Black 2, or Pokemon White and Black. All 4 versions actually work for this. You want to go into the Pokemon Transfer Lab on Route 15. You cannot miss it. It's actually in the middle. To make up for the fact that we didn't show the route leading to Route 15, we are going to show you where the building is. You can't miss it. It's in the very, very center of the map. It's a little bit foggy. It's the autumn season, so it's a little foggier than normal here. And we just want to show you that not only where the building is on the town map, but also in the town or in the route exactly where that building is. It's going to be right to the left of that town right there. And I know this is going to sound so embarrassing, but I've actually never played Black and White all the way. I played Black all the way through, but never the sequels. And here it is, the Poké Transfer Lab. What's Poké Transfer? Come inside and see. Now, it's so funny. I want to let you know a little secret. The second time he actually recorded this, he didn't get so lucky with it. If you've actually never had the pain of transferring Pokemon to the Poké Transfer Lab, well, you're in for a treat. But I'm not going to... Alright, it's time to meet our new professor, L'Entraîneur Fantastique. You need 2 DS systems to play with Poké Transfer. Do you have a second DS system you can use? But just remember, muy importante. Also, his name is Professor Park. Once you bring a Pokemon here, you can't send it back. Do you still want to do it? As I said, luckily you guys are getting the better of the recordings as far as him doing the Poke Transfer in the Poke Transfer Lab. This minigame can be so frustrating, and actually I learned a bit about it, seeing it for only the second or third time. Back when transfer moves actually first started in X and Y and things like that, like Giga Drain Volcarona, for example, I was actually able to get a nice feel for this because I was actually one of the few people in my area, or that I knew, that actually had a Pokemon Black cartridge, so I was actually able to do this. And at the time, I had two DS systems in order to use DS Download Play. However, I don't have that anymore. So, we're going to be looking for the software available for download, the Poke Transfer ID 22441. You can do this on Diamond, Pearl, Platinum, Heart Gold, or Soul Silver. So, I guess you could just transfer from any of the Generation 4 games into the Generation 5 games. We're going to go ahead and get into this minigame and see how frustrating it is for Corey to be able to catch these Pokemon. Remember, we did have a new member join us on the Poke Transfer journey. Back last time we had Ponyta join us in Generation 4 or Generation 3 because Pal Park had to have 6 Pokemon for the transfer. But Ponyta is the only one of this original crew that did not come from the original Pokemon Red version in the tutorial video. Here we go. Squirtle, Pikachu, Charizard, Dragonite, Mewtwo, and Ponyta. So, unlike the Pal Park, they're all going to be all in one area. They're all going to navigate through the bushes and utterly be frustrating. Especially you, Squirtle. I'm looking at you. So, let's go ahead and jump into the testing Poke Transfer. Catch all the Pokemon before the timer runs out. I think what's so trolly about this is that there's a timer on this. And I don't particularly want to find out, and luckily in this video, we will not find out what happens when the timer goes down. I just want to take the opportunity for those of you guys still watching of the culmination in the history that we're making today on this video. Taking a Pokemon all the way from Pokemon Red, Blue, and Yellow all the way up to Scarlet and Violet. But not through the normal mannerism. Normally, Pokemon cannot transfer from Generation 1 and 2 all the way to Generation 3 because of corruption of data and how data is handled differently in Generation 3 and Generation 1 and 2. There are other tools that have been found prior to this, but this is the biggest one as of today and the only one that I'll be talking about or covering in the video. If at some point you want me to cover the other ones, let me know in the comments section down below. So Corey has now caught 3 of those Pokemon with Dragonite, Ponyta, and Squirtle left. I'm hoping maybe he gets... Oh, what is this pink cloud? Oh, he's looking for the pink cloud. I missed! Come on, get the pink cloud. No! You can get it. Yes! So what's really cheap about this is when you put them to sleep, it ignores the fact that they're behind a bush and you can just aim directly. But he actually misses Squirtle. Squirtle is evading him. And it is just like, hey, Squirtle, Squirtle. And finally he got it from behind the bush. I guess there's some type of, what's it called? There has to be some type of motion proximity that it senses in the bush. There must be like a sweet spot. Pokemon cannot be returned once they transfer. The reason I started at Professor Park is I thought it was a very interesting NPC that I guess on the surface can speak multiple languages. Which is kind of cool for the intricacy between the Generation 4 and Generation 5 transfer. I just thought it was very interesting, and also, like I said, Professor Park. I just don't have words. I don't. Alright, so we are waiting for the 2 DSs to connect back to each other. And now what we're going to do is the same thing that we've done in every other part of the tutorial, where we go through in the PC box and show you the Pokemon successfully transferred to that generation. Great! Molto bien! I don't even know what that means, and I speak Spanish at least some little bit every day at work. Poke Transfer is only one step away from going down in history as a fantastic invention. Don't you mean invention fantastique? I guess technically he could speak French too. But I think it's kind of like a worldly thing, so that basically you could transfer Pokemon from all over the world. It's kind of like a before GTS kind of thing, even though the GTS came out in Generation 4, so that makes sense. Generation 5. So, we are hunting the boxes on the right side 3DS, which is or the right side DS connected to Pokemon White 2. We need to find where these Pokemon are in the boxes, And it looks like they are by Pokedex order, and we're struggling a little bit. There's got to be a box where these ingrates are at. Where are they at? Champions, Legends. Ah, there they are. Squirtle, Ponyta, Mewtwo, Dragonite, Charizard, and Pikachu. Guys, let me know in the comment section down below if you missed it the first time. If you're still with us, you guys are incredible. But let me know if you ever went through the challenge of going through and getting your own Surfing Pikachu through Pokemon Stadium, because that is really, really cool. I think, too, what would be really neat is the OT would transfer over. So even if you lost, say, the moves or whatever, you would still have the OT from the original game. So you would have the, I guess, the Gift Farfetch'd and the Gift Gligar from Pokemon Stadium 2 transferred all the way up into Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. You would lose the moves, but you would keep the OT. Therefore, you would keep the authenticity of the Pokemon through the generations. What's very, very important to note, as I said before, Generation 1 and 2 cannot technically transfer to Generation 3 with the way that data works in Pokemon Generation 3. But it is really cool to see your classic months through your Game Boy Color all the way from the 80s and 90s to join you in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, maintaining all of their original OT data. Now, that is a very, very cool thing. Like I said, at some point we might go over the other tools, but this is very, very easy for everybody, especially if you are a retro collector and you own a lot of these retro devices and a Game Boy Color and another Game Boy. You can really just do this for yourself, set it up yourself, and transfer Pokemon up to Scarlet and Violet through the Generation 1 and 2 games. As I stated earlier, and to re-note, at this current time, the other version, the new version of the Poké Transporter Game Boy is not working with Gold, Silver, and Crystal. We could not get the new version to work. We got it to work one time in our testing. However, I currently at the moment do not have the devices in order to help Corey test this phenomenon. However, when I get all of the devices, I will do my very best to start testing things and to help him where we left off here in this tutorial. So now we wave goodbye to Generation 5 and we now go to the classic Pokemon 3DS generation games. To think we've come so far, but we're still so far away. We now enter Poké Transporter. You were able to download Poké Transporter for free before the 3DS shop shut down, because it is the application that allows you to work and to transfer Pokemon through Generation 5 all the way up into Pokemon Bank. Sending to Pokemon Bank can't be removed, can't be returned to the original additional game. Items that were added are now going to your bag, and we are on Poké Transporter here. We're going to move the box, and here we go. It's going to be moved into Pokemon Bank. I believe it's called Transport Box 1. But I honestly could not give you guys this amazing tutorial without looking at Corey's incredible, amazing 90s Charizard themed Game Boy 3DS theme, and we are going to get into that here in just a minute. We used Poké Transporter to move the box of Pokemon over, and here we are. Look at that, just incredible value right there. We're going to go to Pokemon Bank right now, and as we go to Pokemon Bank, we're now going to use the transport box and now take the transport box of Pokemon and now move them over into Pokemon Bank. And as you guys know, there's only one step away from Pokemon Bank to getting into those games, and that is Pokemon Home. The only thing you will not see in this tutorial is that Ponyta moving from Sword to Sword and Shield. As we know, regular Ponyta and Galarian Ponyta did not make the cut for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. That being said, we're now going to move Pokemon from Pokemon Home. Poké Transporter download is also right there, so if you just get Pokemon Bank, it is free to use. You just get the program, download the transporter, and you are good to go. Communicating with the Pokemon Bank server, we are now going to communicate with that Pokemon Bank server, get a bunch of Pokémols. I don't want any of your dadgum Pokémols. Put me in the bank. And we're going to go here to the left to the transport box, and as you can see here, Squirtle, Ponyta, Mewtwo, Dragonite, Charizard, and Pikachu are all here. Now, you could use the, I believe it's the green arrow in order to move everything all at one time. I believe it's in your menu options if you hit Y. But anyway, we're going to move all of those Pokemon into the different bank boxes. And as we move them into the bank boxes, we're going to go ahead and transfer into Pokemon Home as we finish up and show you everything in its original location. Now, We will be showing the Pokemon in Pokemon Home, and then of course we're going to transfer them into the game, and we're going to take a look, and I'm going to reveal the really cool secret. If you paid attention at the beginning of the tutorial to the ID numbers through the game, you're in for quite a cool surprise, and it really goes back and harkens to the fact, as I said, that it really keeps all of the original trainer data, so you just kind of have a lot of memories and a lot of good times with these Pokemon that you're transferring. And I think it's really, really cool because it is something that is integrated into a custom DS ROM that is able to move this, and it doesn't move them as Pokemon, it moves them as an event into Pokemon Emerald. And I think that's just a very fascinating thing, because you don't see events scripted like that to move Pokemon other than like in RPG Maker projects. So those of you that have never used Pokemon Bank, I did forget to mention one other thing you will have to have, which is a Pokemon Home Premium account. It is the only way to move Pokemon from Pokemon Bank into Pokemon Home. So on the left side of the screen, you see the 3DS having the move code from the Switch version of Pokemon Home. It's also very important you use the Switch version of Pokemon Home, as you cannot transfer Pokemon any other way. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and move them over, and as you know, as you're using a transfer for Pokemon Home, it'll actually log you out and give you a couple of minutes before you can actually view all of those Pokemon into Pokemon Home that came from Pokemon Bank. So we've got two final things here for you. We're going to take a look at them in Pokemon Home, and then we are going to move them into Scarlet and Violet and take one final look at our incredible team that has transcended time and space to be with us. And I think you will find they are very, very happy to be with us in Scarlet and Violet, the newest generation of games. That being said, if you have any questions with this tutorial, anything set up, any questions about your equipment, or anything other than that, please leave a comment section in the comment down below. I will be happy to help you any way that I can. Just mind that I don't actually have these devices, but big shout-outs again. I could not have done this without Angel the Knight 091, and a very big shout-out to him as well. Something externally from this video. He has had me on this motivational kick to upload more often, and really just been there for me through thick and thin and everything. And man, you really deserve the biggest shout out. I really cannot thank you enough for everything that you've done for me now, in the past, in the present, and moving forward into the future of 2025 and further, as we're already halfway through 2024. I promised you guys a lot this year, and I've got a lot going on, and a Let's Play that I've not even revealed yet. Speaking of that, we'll get there. I want to finish Xenoverse before then, because I want to finish a playthrough before I start a new playthrough. Oh, here we are. Move is complete. Would you like to move them into the boxes in Pokemon Home? Yes. Yes, I would. I want to show you guys these Pokemon in Pokemon Home and show you that they are just as wonderful as they were coming from the Game Boy. It is just phenomenal to me that we can see these Pokemon in their natural habitat coming all the way from the original Game Boy cartridges and save files. Now, unlike Corey has ways to back up saves and all of that. I don't have a lot of those devices. That's why I said if you are unfamiliar or don't know of what kind of equipment that you have, don't overthink. Don't think too much into it. You really just need a Game Boy and a Game Boy Advance and a good old Game Boy Color link cable. Things I'll be acquiring and probably making a video about when I do indeed get those items. There they are in all their glory: Squirtle, Ponyta, Mewtwo, Dragonite, Charizard, and Pikachu. Now, because we are in Scarlet and Violet, currently, you see you cannot move the Ponyta over because it is not naturally in the game. You also see that Squirtle has lost some moves, but if you're not familiar, Pokemon Home can go back and teach moves, so that's pretty cool. So if you have moves to teach your Pokemon for, I guess, relearn capabilities or anything like that, or porting them over into your Scarlet and Violet game, Pokemon that you've traveled with all of your life, near and dear to my heart is Gengar. Spectre has been with me a very long time, and as you know from a playthrough on my channel and lore, I love ghost types. Always have, always will. That being said, I've got a really cool ghost type I plan on featuring and a lot of really cool videos planned. So if you are not subscribed, please check if you're subscribed and hit that button. It helps out the channel immensely. So we're transferring Squirtle, Mewtwo, Dragonite, Charizard, and Pikachu into Pokemon Scarlet version, I do believe. Not Violet, I do believe it is Scarlet. For any reason, I guess we're hitting tutorial buttons. And he was like, nah, man, I'm not going to show Ponyta and Sword and Shield. And I was like, man, I thought the viewers would really like that. You know, just getting the Pokemon into a newer game. But, as I said here, as we're going through, we're changing moves around. And that's going to make them applicable in Scarlet and Violet. Pretty cool that Pokemon that only came over with Water Gun and Skull Bash are getting moves like Shell Smash. So, it's a very cool way to upgrade your moveset, especially if you are struggling with like TMs and stuff like that, and you need to change some moves around. As you remember, when Mewtwo was in other versions, he had Fire Blast, Thunderbolt, Psychic, and the like, and as you see here, it's been removed for Psystrike Future Sight, but things like that can be relearned. And it's free of charge. There's no gems, there's no points, there's no nothing. There's just good old classic relearning in the most legitimate way possible. And Corey is resetting up that original Mewtwo set as it was and as it came over from the transfer. As we see, the Dragonite is the same way. Safeguard, Rain Dance, Dragon Dance, and Hyper Beam definitely got changed a lot since it came over. Doesn't look like they can relearn HM moves, but Corey is deciding to add some new moves to this Dragonite just to give it that really cool looking flair. Roost is always really good, and it looks like he's keeping it old school with Hyper Beam. I could see that from Corey. So then the cut Charizard that came from Generation 1 got Scary Face, and the rest of it he's replacing. But it had Inferno as well. Going classic with the Hyper Beam. God. I remember when Swords Dance Hyper Beam was like the best physical attack Charizard had, and it would surprise things, and it was really cool. You would belly drum into Salac Berry and then have like Hyper Beam to nuke something as strong as Explosion. It was really cool for like hitting bulky waters in Generation 3. Changing up the Pikachu moveset, doesn't look like he can pick up the Surf, I don't believe. I don't know if he scrolls all the way down to the Surf. I don't think you could pick that back up. I think you'd have to transfer that from Generation 7, Alolan Raichu, the Surfing Pikachu. I'm not too sure. Let me know in the comment section down below, guys, as we now are getting ready to close Pokemon Home and go into the final chapter of this wonderful adventure through time and space. And that's going to be in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Guys, also, if you end up taking this amazing journey through time and space, tell us all about it in the comment section below. I'm curious some of the Pokemon that have been with you since the dawn of time that you are transferring into your newest generations. Pokemon that have been by your side through thick and thin, through every generation, that have been through with you through playthroughs, and Pokemon that are just very near and dear to your heart. Guys, this video took an incredibly long time to make, an incredibly long time to render, and a long time to get it where I wanted it. So please show it the utmost love, support that you possibly can. Share it with your friends, and know that it is real. For anybody in the comment section that is going to say that it is not real, I understand that you may not understand how the data structure works from Generation 1 and 2 to 3, but this is really cool, and it feels very official, something like Pokemon and Game Freak themselves would have put out. So thank you guys so much. Extra special thanks to the creator of this, extra special thanks to Angel of the Night 091, and to the original video that inspired us to do it all down below in the description. You guys are incredible. So, as we sign off, we're going into Paldea here. We're going to take a look at our final Mons. Let me know if you notice anything with the ID numbers. Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm also looking at the markings to see if they retain the Game Boy mark, but I think that is back in Sword and Shield and other games. Also, let me know that in the comment section down below, because I'm actually not sure. It seems to have traveled across time and space to join us from the Kanto region. Time and Space, Norris and Red, some of the oldest save files that Corey has ever had from original cartridges that are probably still at his house with the rest of his cartridges. Alright, Thunderbolt, Fire Blast, Blizzard, and Recover with the Pressure ability. seems to have traveled across time and space to join me from the Kanto region. I just really like that, how it just says through time and space through the Kanto region. It probably says the same thing with Red, Blue, and Yellow Virtual Console, but man, is it so cool. And now, having the Virtual Console of Gold, Silver, and Crystal as well, you have a way to transfer everything. Even if we can never get the newest version of this to work, that includes Gold, Silver, and Crystal, you can just use that with the regular Poké Transporter method for things like Shiny Celebi and Shiny Mew. Ash Charizard, man. The oldest Pokemon I think Corey probably has, his classic cut Charizard. Timid seems to have traveled across space and time to join me from the Kanto region. And finally, we could not end this better than with the mascot himself. Good old Pikachu. Which, for some reason, we didn't click the summary of. Hey, he's the mascot! I think he's just adding them to the party just because. What a good way to go to the summary of Pikachu, which he... No! You left out the mascot! Where's he at? I didn't realize you left that out when you recorded it. That's crazy. So now, I guess we continue our adventures in Paldea. Unless he wants to show it off in a battle. What better way to show off Pikachu than in a battle? I mean, it is the series mascot. Crazy that the series mascot was almost something like Jigglypuff or Clefairy. Could definitely see that going a lot differently. Pikachu's just so electrically the best choice, you know? I guess we're oh, I know what he's doing. Never mind, I'm not going to spoil it for you guys. What a great way to finish this. He decides to find a really good place to settle down and make a picnic with our friends and lovable Pokemon that have traveled through space and time. Come on out, old friends. And Pikachu, while he didn't have the summary, like I said, Angel teased this in his last video, and I am here to bring it to you. So guys, this was really fun to make, very time consuming, but well worth it and wonderful. Guys, hopefully more of you get to engage on this trip through space and time. I know I'm excited to do it when I get the equipment and the hardware. But until next time, guys, that's all for me. Until next time, power on, power off.